everybody. Ooh, it's been a bit since I've had a conversation this morning. I'm a little raspy. All right, I'm here in the car. I just got done with red light therapy, and I wanted to talk about the weekend that I had and spend some time with you. So let me know if you're here. Hi, double RPT. Nice to meet you. Let me know if you're here. Say hi in the chat. Hey, Deborah. Deborah Renee. So I went to Women Evolve this weekend, and it's a conference for women, transformational. It was phenomenal, and hey, Ms. Lopez, and it sparked a thought that I hear from parents of sensitive kids a lot, and I want us to really unpack this for the short amount of time that I have this morning. So the event was awesome. It's a Christian women's event, or well, everybody's invited, but so we were worshiping, we were praising. There were so many breakthroughs. There were such amazing sermons, such inspiration. Just the conversations around life and body and marriage and uh, spiritual growth, and there were therapists there talking about mental health and the capacity to grow and the difference between spirituality and mental health and how both of them are connected. And I just was just so floored by the leadership um, in this event. And I went with friends, and it got me thinking about some of the challenges that we hear parents bring to us when they're working with us, or prior to thinking about working with us. One of the, you guys know that I take calls, parents who want to break out of the meltdown cycle and are wondering whether or not our work is going to be a good fit. And one of the things that I hear often that came up in a different way at this training was when parents are referred to us by their friends, they share with us that it took them a really long time to get vulnerable with the with their friends. And I want to talk about the fact that as parents, there's tons of research out there that the stress level of parents today in 2024 is unparalleled. Your children are struggling. Everybody's children can be seen to be struggling in some way, shape, or form. Schools are struggling. Teachers are quitting, things like that, right? And while I'm not one to wallow in pain and suffering, I used to be that way. I don't do that anymore because I have skills that I didn't realize existed. I am certainly not going to sugarcoat. And hey, Jess, welcome. And so let me know in the chat, drop an emoji if this is something that's been tough for you, where I was talking to a friend even yesterday around who I used to be and the challenges that I used to have making deep connected friendships. And one of them was because I was so freaking negative. And I coach on this in our course, and I want to bring this to light to you guys here. When you're stuck in emotional suffering, it will be very difficult to avoid pinpointing what isn't going right. Hey Marisol, welcome. And so what happens in these conversations is your brain is focused, and this is backed by neuroscience, your brain is focused on what's not working. So there's survival mode thinking, there's emotional intensity, and your reticular activating system, which is the brain's filter, is filtering out positive experiences. Hey Jess, hey Alyssa, filtering out positive experiences and hyper-focusing on the negative. Why? Because your body is in a fight or flight response. And because of the meltdowns, as a parent, you are working double time to think about what's going to make your kid upset, walking on eggshells, wanting to not use the wrong word, worried about, waiting for the other shoe to drop, holding your breath. Hey, Mrs. Champ, say hi. Hey, Bilodeau, hello. Wanting to make sure that every little thing goes perfectly, and this is a fear-based response. You might be thinking that you are doing the very best that you can, that you are trying so very hard to help your child manage their big emotions and move out of the emotional intensity that they're experiencing. And you are working very, very hard, and I'm not here to tell you that you're not. You're draining yourself dry, and that's the problem. And I want to bring this to the attention because I went to this transformative event. It was phenomenal. Check out Women Evolve Instagram, some of the snippets. It's phenomenal. I can't, words cannot express the amount of transformation and freedom that I experienced, witnessed, and served other people in that environment. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because the room was full of nearly 40,000 women, and we were all getting exceptionally vulnerable. Now, we were with friends, we were with strangers, God was in the room. Hey, good, Gatushas, I'm going to jack that up. Hey, Taylor. Hey, Allie. Um, Say hi in the chat, guys. Let's have a conversation. And one thing that I think we as a society really struggle with, and parents especially stuck in the meltdown cycle really struggle with, is getting vulnerable with people that you trust. And there are a few skill gaps that can be inhibiting you from this, and I just highlighted one, right? And the other thing is really the ability to trust yourself in your capacity to receive care. Hey, Galena. Hey, Danaya. And someone else is joining. We've got some people here live. Hello. So at this juncture, when you're dealing with the big intense emotions and your kid is losing their mind and they're struggling and you're holding your breath and you're waiting and you're trying not to yell, the emotional experience you are going to have is shame. You will experience shame. There's no doubt about it. And it is also true that shame keeps you stuck, and shame tells you, who do you think you are, and you don't deserve this. And this voice is false. It is a lie. And so it is important that you decide to connect to your friends. I'm literally talking about clients of ours who experienced significant transformation in their lives, find out that their friends have been suffering for years. And this is a conversation we have when we have families come in by referral. And I want to give you the freedom here, like give yourself the permission to connect to someone who cares about you and let them know that you're suffering. It feels very, very hard, and I'm not going to reduce the intensity that might feel, to ask for help, to seek support. And again, I used to be that person. I used to be the person who felt, and based on how I was raised and all the things that I went through in childhood and adolescence and social isolation and bullying and all of that, I learned as a child to never let anyone see me sweat. And that got me great grades and accolades in academics. But it ruined my relationships in adulthood and in young adulthood. I never trusted anyone. I was always yearning for close friendships, and I didn't build the skill set to have it. And so coming into adulthood, learning and observing that skill and being able to cry on someone else's shoulder was extremely uncomfortable as a type A high performer. And the skill set that you need for your child is beyond your ability to keep everything in order and have the schedule move on lock. If this is resonating with you, drop an emoji in the chat. Say hi. Let's have a conversation, guys. I tell my clients all the time, this is not the Megan Show. You will not learn anything if you're not participating in the conversation. We're here we're not just here to, well, I'm not here to entertain. I am here to create transformation for you in your life. Whether you work with us directly or not, this channel is to create change. It is divisive. It is transformational in that respect. So if you want a pretty little show, go ahead and move on to somebody else's channel. But if you want to change your life and you want to feel inspired and you want to figure out where you're stuck and break out of the emotional intensity in your household, this is the place to be. Hey, Caro. Hey, Eiley. Hey, GK. So I want you to notice whether or not you have been forthcoming with your people in your circle, whether that be local or online, and whether or not you have shared recently, hey, good morning from New York City. I have family that's lived in the city, so, and friends, so super fun to talk to you. And the challenge that you can be having if you are not breaking through the barrier that shame will put on your life, that this is a problem that you have to keep within the family. And trauma teaches you that no one can be trusted, and you have to handle everything on your own. Hey, 3 chickens. 3 chickens and a cat. That's amazing. I love that. You guys in your Instagram names say hi. Let me know what your real name is. um, And so the focus that I want us to have today is to get real with yourself on whether or not trying to do this all on your own has actually gotten you to where you want to go. Because the vulnerability that it takes to break out of the meltdown cycle for you as a parent is imperative for your child to break out of out of their own shame cycle. They will not share with you what it is that's bothering them, how many people in their lives that they're caring about and worrying about when it's keeping them up late at night, without basically flooding you at the end of the night before they go to bed because they can't hold it in. That's an explosion, whether it comes out as in fire and frustration or not. It's an explosion. That's not healthy behavior. And your child will need to be able to learn to dissipate their emotional intensity, share and process their emotions on a daily basis, hour by hour, minute by minute, to relieve that, because they experience so much from the world that we don't even give them credit for, right? And if you're not paying attention to how you are leading by example and how uncomfortable it is to talk to your friends about the challenges that you're experiencing at home because you feel like you have to solve it all by yourself, and that this is something that if your kid is only melting down at home, then thank goodness it's only happening at home. I want you to observe that this is not where life is supposed to stay for you. You are meant for greatness in your family, and your child is meant to change the world. Sensitive people are on this earth for a very important reason. They notice the big picture and the small picture at the same time. And if your child is not able to take that information in and put it out to somebody else who can help them organize it, aka you, their parents, in childhood, then they will not be able to make the impact that they are here to make in their young adulthood and throughout their lifetime. Your ability to rely on other people is required to create transformation in your household. And I really want to get this through, because there was something that that we hear a lot. We hear from parents, I just need to pray more, or I just need to talk to my therapist about this, or I just need to Monday morning quarterback with my spouse and low-key criticize my spouse for raising their voice because they're doing the best they can and they don't have all the skills either, and just hold it all in and fester resentment, right? Listen, none of that is going to help you break out of the meltdown cycle. It's all reactive parenting. Previewing yesterday to see what you can solve for tomorrow is not going, I should say reviewing yesterday to see what you can solve for tomorrow is not an effective way to solve the problem. Again, going back to what I was sharing earlier, your brain is hyper-focused on the negative. So it is filtering out positive signs of growth. It's filtering out opportunities for your kid to hear you in a different way. One of the things that we hear so often from our parents, in addition to, I just need to handle this on my own, because if you're a type A high performer like I am, but you haven't learned how to connect and be vulnerable, then you will stay stuck in this is my problem to fix and no one needs to know about it, because if people know about it, then my child will be rejected, then my friends will stop hanging out with me. Wait a minute, right? This conversation is about the fact that there's depth available in the friendships that you have that you haven't tapped into yet, and that friendship could very well be the friend that says, hey, I actually worked with Megan and we have created lasting transformation. We've just the last 5 families that came in to work with us have worked with, came in because they revealed their needs to a close coworker, to to a neighbor, and to a dear friend, that they were struggling for so long, and those friends happened to have worked with us, whether it be a year ago or 2 years ago, even a couple years ago. And so I just want to observe for you that the transformation that you're seeking could be right around the corner, and you're just not asking the right question. This is an experience that I had. I went to this event on that I mentioned at the beginning of this live over the weekend, and I had only heard of one of the speakers. I had heard of the father of the pastor that was running the event, and I'd heard his sermons and listened to his sermons years ago, and because I moved on, I just stopped listening to him, and not because there was anything, I just got distracted, if you will. And there was this world of leadership and opportunity and freedom in conversation that, yes, Chris is saying, phew, girl, that being vulnerable with people is difficult. Not everyone is going to truly see you without judgment. Hey, I'm going to talk about that, though. Listen, I will get to that, okay? But let's cover that in a minute. My dear friend, right, shared with me, she got these tickets, and she's like, hey, I want you to come, and I raised my hand immediately, right? And I get in this room, and there are resources and conversations that I just wasn't aware existed. And if transformative does not, there were things, there were lessons at that event that I was praying for information on, and some of you might know that we're working on publishing our book, my book, but my team is going to help me write it because we have research that we'll be putting together to prove our points. But in addition to that, there are conversations that I wanted that were swirling around in my head, and I was wanting guidance and examples to get this out, right? And so anyways, that's a side note, but what I want to focus on is the fact that is uncomfortable, even in loving relationships, to be that vulnerable. So Chris, when you're struggling for fear of judgment, or even because you've experienced judgment, I want you to observe that there is power in effective community. And effective community can be transformative. I met some random person at the event, and impacted, the conversation was so impactful because we were in the same room, right? And this is a conversation that we hear from our clients all the time. Getting in the right community doesn't mean that you have to have those people that are available to go to Starbucks with you. You can do the virtual conversation. So I am inviting you to observe and use your spidey senses, but don't confuse your spidey senses with fear. Don't confuse fear with your spidey senses. Your gut intuition will say this person is trustworthy. Fear will say you can't tell anybody because they're going to judge you. And that is different. So trust your gut in that respect. Learn to listen to your gut. And if you struggle with that, then it is time for you to have a conversation with a mentor who can teach you that skill set, because if you don't have that skill set, then your child will not get that skill set. It is a learned behavior through parenting. If you want your child to have the capacity to trust their gut in childhood, you will need to have that skill set to impart to them, right? So when you're building that skill set, and like I said, I had to build it in my 20s, like mid to late 20s. So I had it before I had kids, but I did not have it in childhood. I did not have it. I overrode my gut sense. I overrode my, I was, people-pleasing doormat, and then rage on, in private, right? Like there was just no middle in my life in terms of emotion management. And so if this sounds like you, then I encourage you to observe who in your life is someone that you can trust sharing that you are struggling. And if it is not anyone that you know personally, then I invite you to stay connected to this community. This, post in the chat, write in the comments. Most of our clients are lurkers because you're talking about your child's needs. And it's also true that, hey, we teach this stuff. So if you need a room to get into to communicate this and to completely transform your life, I invite you to think about that and to ask the questions. What would it take to break out of this? Hey, Glamourhood of traveling, of the traveling mom, that's awesome. Hey, yes, Jill. Hey, Terry Travis. So I invite you to challenge yourself to break out of the fear of vulnerability, because you never can predict what what change is available on the other side of that decision. What I can do, though, is predict that if you choose not to be forthcoming with people whom you know love you, then you will struggle in breaking out of that pattern. And I also want to give you the freedom to observe that not everyone whom you can trust about your family circumstances is going to have the right things to say. But that doesn't mean that they don't love you and that they can't work on helping you. So I want to call you out on this, Chris, that, you know, I'm not talking about abusive situations where, where you're being gaslit, but if you had the interpersonal relationship skill set that we are talking about here, where someone is saying that they have a misconception about your child or a misconception about you and how you're handling this, you would be able to respond with effective boundaries and effective autonomy and advocate for yourself and say, I appreciate that you think that I need to be stricter, and what I know about my child is that they are not responsive to firm punishment, because no child is responsive to firm punishment. I've had this conversation with friends who I've met who have history of spanking their kids, and they know what I do, and I've been very clear because they justified it in my presence, and I said, that's not what led to your child reaching the A's or, following your direction in this respect. And in terms of responding to my parenting, right? Like, there's no skill set that you can't learn in order to impact your community, because I didn't have this skill set before. I didn't have the ability to stand tall in my convictions and safely and effectively ask for help without taking on someone else's journey in the process, without holding on to someone else's growth edge as mine to bring on. And this is where you get the opportunity to change. Why? Because when people are shifting your perspective, you'll learn more about what perspectives you want to own and gain and what perspectives you don't. And your capacity to build that skill will greatly positively impact your life. But if you shy away from it, if you hesitate, if you wait to raise your hand. The only reason I was in that transformational conference was because the very second that my friend said, hey, I have tickets to a thing, I raised my hand. Had no idea what the thing was, but I was like, we're going. Why? Because she has access to communities that I am not very familiar with, or I just don't, they're not available in my community, and I value her opinions and her and how she leads her life. So I encourage you to start to put yourself in communities and environments where you are not the smartest person in the room, where you are not the most learned person in the room. Because if you are the most learned on parenting and the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. You cannot lead other people to change and to use gentle parenting and to communicate about, safe management of behavior without shaming and punishing and coddling if you are not being stretched out of your own comfort zone, because as leaders, we go first. And this is a very important lesson, because as an early child mental health therapist and noticing what I knew about children, I was not being mentored by anyone other who was teaching me how to be a good therapist. And that did not give me, because it's a work environment, did not give me the personal development strength I had to impact my community, to impact people from around the world, to communicate the importance of caring for yourself while you're caring for your kid. I'm literally sitting outside of the red light therapy appointment I just had, by the way. So I practice what I preach. And there is no filter on this Instagram because every filter takes away my freckles, and I will not eliminate my Irish heritage for the sake of the look of makeup on this channel. So please observe that the importance of the shift that you need to make in your community, it might not be in the circles that you're in. So Chris, I validate you in your statements here that you very well might not be in the room that is going to get you to stretch, the community that is going to get you to stretch, and you have an opportunity that you can start asking questions. What rooms do I need to be in? Where are communities available where we are having this conversation and we're free to do that? What opportunities am I missing out on because I'm afraid of acknowledging that we have a problem in our household? Sensitive children are more likely to withhold their emotional intensity for times when they feel like they can let loose. Now, I will tell you that does not mean that they feel psychologically safe in the parent-child relationship. That is a fallacy, and that is a myth that is a fad psychology, pop psychology purported in all over the internet. And that's a side conversation because I've taught on this before. But I want you to observe that if your child is holding it all in and exploding at home, they are learning this skill set from you if you have a hard time being vulnerable. Because sensitive kids are not designed to take on other people's emotional intensity. None of us are. None of us are. The work that we do and the work that I used to do in the clinic, we used to work with parents whose kids were suicidal, chronically. I definitely receive what you're saying, and I agree. Great, Chris. I'm so glad that this conversation is inspiring. I hope you take it into your day as a torch to start asking questions. Good. High five for you for being coachable there. The conversations that I used to have in the training obviously was there, but these are parents who's working directly with children who are in and out of the hospital, who are engaging in self-harm, 9 years old. I'm talking about, I'm not just talking about teenagers here, guys. So if you've got a 4-year-old and you're wondering where this is going to pop, you need to observe that, and I'm not here to say this to fearmonger. I will not sugarcoat this. We are on a mission to eliminate daily meltdowns for highly sensitive children around the world so that you don't have to experience the devastation of a child wanting to end their own life because they are so freaking tired of absorbing other people's emotions. And I will tell you that circumstance happens in adulthood. It happens in young adulthood. It happens in adolescence. It happens in childhood. Exhaustion is what leads to the desire to escape life, psychological exhaustion. And it's a symptom of severe burnout. So when we think about the challenges that regular, everyday kids who are sensitive, who are observing other people's emotions, who are feeling responsible for keeping the peace in the classroom and therefore not raising their hand to tell the teacher that they have to go to the bathroom because the teacher was exasperated at Johnny who raised his hand to sharpen his pencil when he didn't need to because he needed a physical break, right? Your child is noticing that stuff. They are more gifted in observing the collective community and actively learning to choose not to be a burden in that community if they don't know how to take the big picture, the whole classroom, the whole, co-op, whatever, the whole family, and take it in and look at the small picture. I am the one person in this household who has needs. If they don't take the big picture and the small picture in at the same time and observe that both can coexist and both can have needs and both can communicate and create harmony and collaborate, then your child will circumvent their own needs for the needs of other kids in the classroom because they are designed to impact the needs of other people. And without that skill set, guys, your kid will struggle. They will hold their meltdowns in for home. It will stay the family's dirty little secret like it was mine growing up. And I will tell you that dirty little secret created severe pain for my entire family. And it was incredibly difficult to break out of, and I ruined a ton of relationships. My sister ruined a ton of relationships. My family members struggled to build lasting relationships, and my parents didn't even share how much strife they were experiencing until my sister was experiencing anorexia in adulthood. No one knew. No one knew. And my mom's a nurse, guys. Like, she was talking to the pediatrician, medical provider to medical provider, and being like, everything's fine. We got it figured out. Nothing was fine. Nothing was fine. And so I invite you to observe that you have the opportunity to break out of your comfort zone, to stop thinking that this is going to solve itself, and to stop carrying the weight of the emotional intensity that the household is having just on your shoulders. That is not what family is supposed to be. That is not how this is supposed to go. And I encourage you to observe that there are rooms that you can be in where you can have that help and you can break out of this meltdown cycle exceptionally quickly. I'm not saying it's not going to be hard. We have a saying in our work with boot campers, don't shortcut the shortcut. You will come into boot camp and you will want to make it easier than it is. It takes hard work to stop the meltdown cycle quickly. Hey, Erica and Sandy. And it's also true that if you don't take drastic and thwarting action for your family will not change how it is reacting. And I encourage you to observe that you will need to change yourself in order to learn how to change your child. And this is a process that we teach our clients. And that's why it's so hard. And it's why we call it boot camp. All right? Now, I observed for you the opportunity that you have. If you are wondering where you're getting stuck, swirling the drain, trying to figure out how yesterday was such a disaster and how to prevent it today, I encourage you to go to MeganThompsonCoaching.com/3 mistakes. The number 3 mistakes. We'll cover the top 3 mistakes that most parents make when they're trying to break out of the meltdown cycle, even if they've already tried gentle parenting, even if they've already tried therapy, and they don't want to coddle and they don't want to punish. All right? Hey, Hunter. Hey, Kano Noel, Hua. I hope I said that right. I probably enunciated it. Welcome. All right, guys, this is the end of this conversation. I went off for quite a while, and I encourage you to observe that being vulnerable doesn't stop getting uncomfortable. You will have to do the hard thing anyways. That's what bravery is for. That's why we have the word courage and the word bravery, because bravery and courage requires you to feel the hard and do it anyways. And that first piece is having this conversation. Talk to somebody about how stuck you feel. All right? Now, if you want that to be us and you want to figure out where you're stuck and what your skill sets are that are lacking, go ahead and DM me. All right? Let us know. We'll send you our latest training. You can learn all about what we teach and where you're stuck and what you could be getting trapped in. And if our work is a good fit, you'll know exactly how to make that happen on that same presentation. All right? And I encourage you to do something today to stop the cycle in your house. Don't let Tuesday float away. All right? I'll talk to you soon.